Last week, I blasted Rebecca Jones as a left-wing grifter who can't seem to stop lying about things like why she got fired and why her son was arrested for making terroristic threats in order to get attention and money from people who hate and distrust Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, aka Meatball Ron, the greatest nickname Donald Trump has invented to date. If you'll recall, Jones accused DeSantis of firing her because she refused to change the Florida Department of Health COVID data to make the state look like it was doing better than it was, an accusation that now appears to be untrue. But it's important to fully represent all sides of an issue, which is why I'm back today to tell you that we actually do now have very good evidence that someone at the Florida Department of Health really did make some unethical edits to COVID data, and it is incredibly fucked up, and we all need to be talking about it. Meatball Ron DeSantis sucks so much that I need to start by saying that today I'm not even going to address like 90% of the stuff that makes DeSantis a vile, fascist, inept piece of garbage, like the don't say gay shit, the anti-trans shit, the Disney shit. No, I'm just going to focus on this one issue, and that issue is that Ron DeSantis chose one of America's frontline doctors to be his Surgeon General, and that guy was just busted for altering a study to make it look as though COVID vaccines were more dangerous than they are. Now, I've talked about America's frontline doctors before, AFLDS, several times before. In fact, here's the summary. They're a collection of idiots who went viral in 2020 for holding a press release where they argued that COVID's not a big deal and we should open up schools and businesses with no mask mandates or any other safety precautions. At the time, the most interesting member of AFLDS was Dr. Stella Emanuel, who also thinks that endometriosis, infertility, and other problems with the reproductive system are caused by witches and demons that have sex with you when you're asleep, among other interesting beliefs. But then in 2022, a new main character took over the spotlight, Dr. Simone Gold, who was the leader of AFLDS, and she turned it into a giant con that extracted money from gullible, MAGA, anti-vax, pro-COVID conservatives. Gold was arrested in 2021 for storming the U.S. Capitol, and then in 2022, she was sued by her own organization for misappropriating millions of dollars for mansions and private jets and personal expenses for her boyfriend, who's an underwear model. Good for him. That was all pretty entertaining, but apparently, AFLDS is the gift that keeps on giving, or more accurately, the curse that keeps on fucking over society, because today I would like to tell you about another prominent member of America's frontline doctors, Dr. Joseph Latapo. DeSantis tapped Latapo as a Surgeon General back in 2021 after Latapo was already on the record as being anti-mandates, anti-mask, anti-vaccine, all of the things that jibed with what DeSantis was all about. At the time of his appointment, Latapo had already written a dozen Wall Street Journal op-eds questioning the safety of the COVID vaccines and arguing against pretty much all basic safety measures. As Surgeon General, Latapo was placed in charge of Florida's Department of Health, where he immediately signed an emergency order ending the requirement for children to quarantine after being exposed to COVID-19 before they're allowed to return to school. Literally, that's what he decided to do on day one during a pandemic. Late last year, the state received an anonymous complaint that Latapo was engaging in scientific fraud by manipulating data in a Department of Health report about the supposed dangers of the COVID vaccine in young men. An investigation was started, but then quickly stopped after the complainant stopped responding to messages. But this week, Politico reported that a Freedom of Information request resulted in them getting their hands on a document proving that Latapo did exactly what the anonymous complainant accused him of. In the discussion portion of the study, it appears that Latapo edited a sentence to read, COVID-19 vaccination was associated with a slight increased risk for cardiac-related mortality 28 days following vaccinations. That sounds pretty damning, right? Well, he deleted the second part of the sentence. In full, this is how it originally read. COVID-19 vaccination was associated with a slight increased risk for cardiac-related mortality 28 days following vaccinations in the primary analysis. But this association was attenuated and no longer significant when applying the event-dependent exposures model utilized for multi-dose vaccines. Thus, there is little suggestion of any effect immediately following vaccination. His edit literally changed the takeaway from no significant risk to increased risk. He went on to add, results from the stratified analysis for cardiac-related death following vaccination suggests mRNA vaccination may be driving the increased risk in males, especially among males aged 18 to 39. Many scientists are calling this out as blatant fraud. University of Florida professor Matt Hitchens told Politico, "I think it's a lie. To say this based on what we've seen and how this analysis was made, it's a lie." When reached for comment, Latapo didn't deny making those edits. Instead, he argued that he was right to make those edits because the public has been the recipient of biased data and interpretation since the beginning of the mRNA COVID-19 vaccine campaign. I have never been afraid of disagreement with peers or media. He also said that he determined the study was worthwhile since the federal government and big pharma continue to misrepresent risks associated with these vaccines. He is actually saying here, it's okay to manipulate data if you think the other side is doing it too. Incredible. So there we have it, actual proof that someone at the Florida Department of Health, the guy running it, edited scientific data that went against his own anti-vaccine beliefs, pushing a dangerous narrative that young men are better off getting COVID than getting vaccinated. How many people believed him and believed this report? How many people failed to get a vaccination and ended up with COVID, which actually does elevate young men's risk of cardiac issues? How many people ended up in the hospital, on a ventilator, or in the morgue because of this? At the very least, this should cause Latapo to lose his medical license. Harvard, where he got his degree, should rescind that degree. And the Wall Street Journal should at least add a footnote to all those op-eds. And dear Lord, please do not let Meatball Ron get anywhere near the White House, because God knows how much damage that idiot can cause when he has an entire country to play with. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.